Welcome to Reiki Banashi, a podcast where we talk about Reiki in a simple way. I'm your host Innina, practitioner and Shihan teacher of Jikiden Reiki. And in this space, I offer you reflections and shared experiences. Today we have the great pleasure of having Barbara Spolverato with us. Barbara is a Shihan teacher of Jikiden Reiki with a path that is as rich as it is authentic. She practices and teaches in Milan. I can't wait to share this conversation with you, so make yourself comfortable and let's get started. And konnichiwa, good morning. Konnichiwa, good morning to you, Innina-san. Welcome back to Reiki Banashi, Barbara-san. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Very happy. Me too, very happy. O genki desu ka? How are you today? I'm well, genki desu. You know, Barbara, I'm actually very honored to have you today. Do you know why? Because it was February of last year when the first episode aired and you were the first guest of Reiki Banashi. And so 1 year later, it's a bit like a celebration. Wonderful, well done. I'm super happy to have you again. First year. An anniversary together. We need some candles. So maybe for those who don't know you yet, Barbara, you were the guest on episode 3. And for those who don't know you yet, maybe I can put the link in the episode notes of the wonderful episode we did together. Because there I talked a bit about myself, I remember. I gave a kind of a presentation a bit about my experience. Thank you very much. Just to give a bit of context, you are a Shihan teacher of Jikiden Reiki with a beautiful, rich, authentic path. You also practice shamanism, and we talked about it in the other episode. Yeah, exactly. And you practice and teach mainly in Milan, but sometimes also in Turin, you told me? Yes, I teach in Milan, yes. I taught in Turin. I taught the Shodan, let's say the basic level. Let's call it that way for those who are not familiar with the terms. I also taught in Bergamo. Let's say that now. Probably towards the end of the year or maybe next year, I'll go back to Turin to teach Okuden again, the advanced level, because they asked me to. Because in fact, once you start, at least that's what I've seen with Jikiden, and you try it, many people then ask to go further. They become curious based on what they see in Shodan. And then they want to continue, and that's how it is, and it's beautiful in that way. Yeah, to go deeper into this. Yes, into everything they learned before. They also want to know what comes after. Also because there are many people who may have already taken other Reiki courses, but they see basically that there are maybe some additional concepts, things that they didn't know before. And so they become curious and want to go on. And that's welcome. And I like teaching. It's really something I enjoy very much, and I want to do it. I also do it in other disciplines, so right now I'm preparing other things, and so it makes me happy because it's appreciated. Beautiful, yeah. And today, in fact, last time it was more of an interview about your path, but today it will be a bit of a special episode because lively. Exactly. We talked about it. In fact, we have our notes ready together to look a bit at. Also, yes, exactly. Because we want to bring a bit of clarity
As you said, Reiki is a very well known practice today, but also very misunderstood because over time, many ideas, stories, beliefs have been created, some useful, some a bit
Less useful.
less useful.
So some of these scare people, so we wanted to demystify a bit. We don't want, obviously, to have the absolute truth, but there are things that it is right to talk about in order to bring clarity.
Exactly. So we would like to take some common ideas, let's say, about Reiki, not, as you said, not to judge them or fight them, but to observe them together, let's say.
Exactly, something different to give our opinion, let's say.
Exactly, exactly. Knowing that very often ideas or myths, let's say, that are created come from a sort of lack of information in the end, right? Or a lack of, yeah, information or study.
Exactly, or correct information.
Yeah, so we will slowly bring a bit of light to these ideas that unfortunately we see on social media.
We have some points because we've seen them. A part of social media, also what you learn by teaching, by practicing with people, by meeting people who tell you, but what is Reiki? Even recently, I met a person who knew absolutely nothing. Then they go and get information and maybe to bring some clarity without wanting to judge anything or anyone.
Exactly. Not out of disrespect, but perhaps also to understand where these beliefs come from, right?
Exactly, important. Let's start. We have several points, I think.
Exactly. So we can start with the first one, which would be that Reiki is an ancient practice.
Exactly. So, um, um, it's thought, I've heard this said, that we should be maybe distinguishing between Reiki as a discipline and Reiki in itself. Because indeed, techniques, let's call them energetic, have existed for, I was about to say for millions of years, but well, no, millions of years is an exaggeration, but they are ancient ones. And shamanism teaches a lot on this point. But Reiki, as a discipline, as a technique in itself, was born in 1922 with Mikao Usui. And therefore,
Exactly.
well, we are in 2026, 104 years.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite recent. And this, as you said, right, to really distinguish what Reiki is as a form of energy, which is something that has always existed, we can say, right, ancient, of course, because it is universal energy.
It's an energy, exactly, that has always existed, that has always been there. Then human beings, through their human history, have learned a bit
How to use it.
how to harness it from the discipline, from the
Exactly, from the method, from the practice. And in that case, in fact, Reiki was called Reiki Ryoho, not just Reiki. Reiki on its own is the type of energy. Then there is the Reiki method, which is fairly recent. So this already is something to clarify, right?
Yes, because many people, among other things, I see it written for many. It almost seems like something born in the US. So much so that I often see it written a Reiki with a Y at the end, no? Which is not Reiki. And there is a lot of way of writing Reiki with the Western alphabet, obviously, but
Reiki.
Reiki, exactly. Which makes an impression because people think it is a practice born in the 80s with the New Age or an American practice. I've heard that too. Instead, it is a practice that is Japanese, truly Japanese. Then, for various historical reasons, It passed through the US. Now we don't go into that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it does help to understand why there is perhaps this belief that it is something American, because at a certain point this practice left Japan and also developed in the 80s up until, I mean, from the 70s, end of 70s, there was this development.
Yeah, I've known teachers who actually started as Reiki masters and also teachers of Jikiden Reiki who started 30 years ago, 35 years ago, 20 years ago as well. And there are quite a few who continue, by the way. That makes me happy. I also met a person in England who also started 20 years ago, a very kind, very lovely lady, and she carries on the method, well, the Western method, but that's perfectly fine.
Exactly. We're not here to say that it's wrong,
No.
but to understand where the method comes from, right? And then I see in the notes that we also have written in Japan, not in India or not in Tibet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because, well, there were, it was modified a bit when it arrived with the New Age. So now you hear a lot about Tibetan Reiki. There's a woman just behind my house who still teaches this Tibetan Reiki. They mixed things, added things that are not exactly in the Japanese culture, let's say, because it was to enrich it a bit. But it was not born in India. It was not born in Tibet. There too, perhaps there is a confusion between the discipline born with Usui, Mikao Usui, and other types of disciplines that may have already existed elsewhere. Certainly because India has an ancient and ancestral culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But let's say that the Reiki Ryoho is not Tibetan. No, it's.
No, it's Japanese, but obviously in Japan we have some points of reference, as they say in Italian, I think.
Reference point.
Yeah, sorry, sometimes I need a translation. Where we obviously also have culturally Buddhism in Japan. Many, many things that perhaps also come from India and are present. But Mikao Usui, when he created his method, was in Japan and in Japanese culture with the elements he had around him, right?
Of course.
And there is perhaps a bit of confusion about this, right?
Yes, okay. Well, just making things clear. Another thing I hear a lot in Nina, correct me if I'm wrong, is that now a bit less, but initially around 10 years ago, I heard that a lot. That Mikao Usui, to become a Shihan with him, you had to follow a path with him that lasted up to 10 years.
It's impossible.
Exactly. Because why is it impossible?
Well, precisely, he created his method in 1922, right? And then he died in 1926, so it's not possible.
Yeah, 4 years. I mean, that is really a historical fact. And well, there's two here, it's a bit of confusion. So he, poor man, might also have wanted to continue, but it was how it went for him.
Yeah.
It was his destiny, in short, to give the start, then to leave the teachers, and look at what happened. I mean, in any case, in 4 years, he managed to create something wonderful that still exists.
And that we still practice today, right?
Yeah, fantastic.
If you think about it.
It's brilliant. He was truly a brilliant man, and he has all my admiration.
Yes, and gratitude, right?
Yeah.
There you go, yeah. So, for this reason, the idea of ancient Reiki or antique Reiki were already perhaps shed a bit of light on it.
A bit of light, yeah.
Then we have Reiki is a religion or cannot be practiced by someone who already has a religion or who already practices a religion.
Exactly. Yeah. Very often there is also this confusion here between religion and the Reiki discipline. They're two different things. But it creates barriers in the sense that I've been told, but I, who am a practicing Catholic, can I practice Reiki? Yes, there is no problem. There are two different things. Reiki is not a religion. It has origins in Shinto, in Shintoism, in Buddhism, in Bukkyo, Japanese Buddhism. Yes, but it's not that you have to convert to Shintoism. Correct me if I'm wrong. It obviously has origins derived from the place where it was born. So it certainly has origins in Shintoism, in Japanese culture, in Buddhism. And that doesn't mean that those who practice Reiki must become Shintoists or Buddhists. Of course, it helps, at least from my experience. And I am not Japanese by origin like you, so it helps a lot to me to know the cultural context in which it was born. And Shintoism, which by the way I like very much, and also Buddhism and everything else, it helps a lot, in short, to understand certain concepts because you Japanese have a way of thinking that, by the way, I like very much, which is a bit difficult. Well, not difficult, it's different from the Western one. You are more simple from certain points of view. We are more mental, the mind.
In the analyzing, the explanation, the why and the how.
Yeah, you see it. No, you see it a lot, right? When you teach. People ask you. They ask you. So there is no. In this regard, this morning I was actually looking because it came to my mind in the manual we use for Jikiden, which is that well-known purple one. And there is an interview that Mikao Usui did with himself, a self question and answer format, which is the Kokai Denju, which we then talk about more extensively when we do the Shoden seminars. And in one of the questions and answer, he says precisely, well, he says, is Reiki Ryoho a synonym for religious healing or hypnotism or healing? He mentions several and he says no. There are no similarities with those methods. It is a treatment that. So he himself says that it does not connect to something religious.
Not to something religious, yeah. So this is very important, in fact. Thank you for mentioning this, because he also says it himself in his own definition of the method. This is not a religion, that there is no need to have a religious approach, and that obviously the cultural context can perhaps help to understand the method a bit better, the approach as well, with these elements, but it's not that you have to convert, as you said.
No, right. I would say no. It's not necessary, let's say. Then everyone is free to do as they wish. I mean, if someone wants to become Buddhist or Shintoist, I find that a bit difficult anyway, but in short, in this regard, it also makes me think of another belief. Unfortunately, I see that this too is gradually fading. The idea that Usui was Christian. Have you ever heard that?
Yes, I've heard it, and I think perhaps it arose after the war. Maybe, who knows, in order to be able to move forward with the practice. You know, after the war, Japan was not very well regarded in America, right?
No.
Exactly.
They had destroyed a fleet, so I don't think so. Maybe.
Exactly. And from there, obviously, to move forward, who knows, maybe someone wanted to hide something. We don't really know.
or make it more digestible, in a sense, a wonderful practice. It came out that he was Christian, but I really don't think he was. On the contrary, we are certain that he wasn't. Also, because some time ago I was reading, they are not easy to find, some little books about when the missionaries went to Japan, the first Portuguese missionaries to Nagasaki, which was a very famous port. They tried to convert the Japanese, but they didn't succeed very well.
Yes, but there was a small community that nevertheless formed, right? But it was really tiny, that community. Didn't become, it was only after the war that there was more development of Christianity, and Usui was no longer alive at that time, so yeah.
And the other thing I heard recently from a woman on YouTube that has a channel is that he was a shaman. Oh my God. To define him as a shaman, it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult. He was an enthusiast, a brilliant person, but truly a shaman. The definition of a shaman, the true definition, is someone recognized by their own tribe who has a connection with the other world, right? With spirits. But usually shamans are recognized before being declared shamans. They are subjected to trials, right?
And they're guided, right?
Subjected to trials, yes. Often from a young age, they fall ill. It doesn't really seem that it matches Usui, Mikao Usui, what he was. And I don't think he would ever have defined himself as a shaman. But but this idea is problematic because from these definitions come wrong conclusions. Shaman, therefore, he connected with the beyond, therefore, demons arrive. Well, anyway, one point at a time. We'll go on that too.
Yes, no, but it's true. It's really from that, I believe. If we think it's a sort of shaman, of medium who channels, as you said,
Energies.
yeah, energies, presences, yes, then it becomes something where also negative things can be channeled, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And this is a belief that is quite wrong.
Yes, it's absolutely wrong, but it pushes many people away from a practice that is instead very simple, wonderful, accessible to everyone. So if used, I would add, if used correctly,
Yeah.
it's an energy that flows. And here again, I refer to Usui's Kokai Denju. He says, right, that it flows anyway in living organism, plants, animals, human beings, more in humans, but there's also a reason, and those come from Shintoism. There's an explanation, right? Why we are more in brackets beautiful or superior to animals. There is really an explanation that comes from a, how can I say, a belief, but it's not the right word, in Shintoism, about the human being, right? About their divine part. They have a greater divine part, let's say, to explain briefly, compared perhaps to an animal, which doesn't mean better or worse, huh?
No, a form of awareness, perhaps.
So it's an energy that in reality already flows in people. Let's not go looking for demonic things. I mean, come on. Well, exactly. Let's leave it there.
We wouldn't even know how to do that in the sense, yeah. So this really comes, I believe, from fears. When there is something wonderful that we can't explain, we maybe create a bit of fear about how it works.
Even though I remember Tadao Yamaguchi, who is our teacher in Japan, saying, "You use it as you were taught, and there is no problem. That's it. So it's as you were taught."
Yeah, and that's how it is, right? It works perfectly when we leave it as it was taught.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay. Then I'll go back to the notes because we have so many.
Yeah.
All right. So there is Reiki heals all illnesses. Okay.
I hadn't heard that one much. I mean, yeah, I hadn't really heard it much, but there actually is also often people coming coming thinking it's miraculous. We were taught this very strongly emphasized by our teachers that it's not like that. It absolutely does not replace medicines. So it wouldn't be correct to say, especially on our part, we have a big responsibility, those of us who teach, to tell people, come here, I'll heal all your ailments, no? Also because sometimes people unconsciously, in the subconscious, but also even deeper, don't want to be healed.
Yeah.
Because then there, it's not that Reiki doesn't heal, but it's the person who decides not to heal. It can create symptoms, there are healing crises, things like that, but that's not because Reiki causes harm. Maybe I'm moving too fast.
No, but it's true. It's also important to address this that we cannot promise miracles healing.
Exactly.
Well, it can happen sometimes, right? It's also something that can happen, but it's not always like that.
Absolutely, because Chiyoko Yamaguchi, our teacher's mother, truly witnessed miraculous healings of people. And then you also see it in daily practice, those who practice Reiki, but especially those who practice it on themselves consistently. You really see the before and after. They go to do blood tests and something has changed. We have really seen this and documented it personally, meaning that there are real cases that the Institute collects where changes are visible. Obviously, all of this must go hand in hand, move in parallel with traditional medicine. Medicine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not that we are against that as well, right? It's not, you do Reiki, then you have to stop all medication treatments.
No.
Absolutely not. It works well together. It's something that.
Sometimes it happens that you may need to change the dosage of medication, but you really see it through tests thanks to Reiki. And so the two things together work perfectly.
Exactly. And here I want to mention an American Shihan who I also interviewed, whose name is Dr. Maria Danilichev.
Ah, yes, yes.
You know her too, surely.
Yes, I know her. Fantastic. She's a doctor.
Yes, she's a MD, as they say. I don't know in Italian, MD, medical doctor. So,
Yeah, okay.
so she truly has this experience as a doctor with a very scientific mind. And she started also doing Jikiden Reiki and also uses it for patients when necessary or when they are asking for it or open to it. This is also on a legal level, of course. You can't give this as a treatment, but when people have this openness and want to add it to their medical treatment.
Yes, we always ask for consent. Consent is very important. We don't go beyond that because there are people, there is a free will. So a person can decide to say, no, I absolutely don't want to try this thing. Or maybe the opposite, yes, I want to try this thing. Here in Milan, in a famous hospital, they had opened a center for therapies for people with chronic headaches. And that kind of things worked very well in the sense that they actually had doctors too doctors who are much more scientific and want scientific proofs. And they saw that people gradually improved. Here's another thing. It's not a remedy that you do once and you're healed. It takes time, patience, and also it also has happened to me recently that people called me asking for information and said, "But how many Reiki sessions do I need?"
Yeah, that's complicated. When there is the expectation, okay, it's a miracle remedy, you do one session, you want to pay a certain amount, and it has been solved. But the body doesn't work like that, even with traditional medicine, right?
Yeah, yeah.
At the end, it's not.
And then honestly, with this person, I felt like telling them, I can't know. Come if you want to try a treatment, and then based on what we feel, which is thought a lot in Jikiden, um, sensing where there are blockages, toxins, I can tell you more or less. I can give you an idea. But one hour session, if someone has an issue, if someone just wants to relax, that's fine. But if someone has a more serious or chronic issue, you can't think of resolving it with one session. And it's not about wanting to speculate on people to get more money. In fact, I do packages in that case. That's it. When this happens, I do. Exactly. That's how it's done. It's really the way the energy needs to be made to work, and it's not in a flash.
In fact, just like in nature, when you look at plants, a tree that has a branch that isn't doing well, it's not something that changes in one day. The body and the energy function in a very natural way. It takes time to integrate, to heal properly. Not just putting a plug on it that makes it seem like everything is fine, but it's really in depth that healing happens.
People are in a hurry. They're in a hurry. I see it here too. No, I live in Milan. Work, work, work. Even when people have the flu, they take antibiotics, which aren't always appropriate, instead of allowing the body, which has self-healing mechanism, to rest, stay warm, and have the chance to work. They take antibiotics and go to the office the next day, and then afterwards, as it happened recently in my office, the following week, it's the same or even worse, because you need to give time to the body, to the medicine, and also to Reiki as well. And and here everyone is in a hurry. There is no longer everyone is in a hurry to produce, to do, to undo, to and instead no, let's give it time.
Exactly. Let's return a bit to a natural way of being, right?
Yes, because then there's also the belief that if everything isn't resolved in one session, it means Reiki doesn't work.
Exactly. I've heard that many times. Okay, I tried it once,
It didn't do anything.
and so it didn't do anything. It didn't solve everything in one session.
What expectations, eh?
Yeah, because even with medication, in the end, if you have a chronic illness, it's not like you take a magic pill and everything is over, no? It's the same thing.
If only, exactly. If only.
And then there's also this. During sessions, obviously, we are working to unblock, the blockages, toxins, and so on. And a movement is created in the body. Yeah. And there are those who think Reiki has worsened the symptom.
Yeah, that's very, very common among people because um, there's a whole explanation we give when we teach in Shodan at the basic, the first level, which in reality is a level that is because we have the first, the second level, and maybe because we give a lot of information, a lot of concepts, And it comes from the fact that Reiki works with the body to clean, to detoxify. I don't know if there's a word in Italian.
I hear detox from time to time in Italian.
So, detoxifying means bringing things to the surface so that the body can then more easily expel them. That's what Reiki does. It goes deep and pull things up. And that pulling up, unfortunately, sometimes means that a symptom may intensify for a certain period, for a short time. So maybe you had pain in your shoulder on this side. Now we won't explain everything. You have pain here, you go for a session, okay, I treat you here. And then why does it now hurt here as well? There's a reason for all these things that we won't tell you.
No.
That's not the time. But basically, then, however, it's part of the, I mean, it's almost a scientific reason, you know?
Yes, yes, I believe so. But I think Usui was very capable in the sense that he had also studied a great many things. It's not that he invented something or was enlightened from one day to another. He also studied many different methods, so it's very something that he studied.
Wow, yes, he was brilliant, interested in so many things, yeah. His method is brilliant.
Of course. Speaking of the symptom becoming stronger, I always take the example, when you go to the osteopath, right? Even if you go to the osteopath, for a moment they might put you back in shape, do some manipulations.
Yeah, true.
And then afterwards it hurts even more for a certain amount of time, and it's still necessary for the body to integrate that.
Yeah, I remember my osteopathy session. It was like he was pulling my vertebrae, my cervical vertebrae, one by one, as if they were detaching them from my back. It hurt like hell. I went home and I kept feeling the pain, and for a day, I don't remember exactly. It's like, a bit like when you get a bruise and when you touch it, it hurts a little. Not exactly the pain, but you feel pain alongside the spine. The next day, I felt great.
Exactly. So it's something normal. Even a medication sometimes when you take it, it makes you very tired, but it helps you, right? So there is this time of integration in quotation marks of what we are asking of the body.
Exactly. So with a lot of calm, we're patient and grounded.
Exactly. Oh. So I'm going back to the notes.
Yeah.
So, okay, so to practice Reiki, you need to be, in quotation marks, spiritual or particularly evolved.
Or gifted, I don't know, able to feel energies. And this idea always comes up, which is why I brought out our little booklet, no, the manual, the Kokai Denju, because it says it there from Mikao Usui sensei, asks the question and then answers it himself, right? And the answer is obviously no. Everyone can practice Reiki once they have been instructed well, once they know how to, a whole series of things, but you don't have to be spiritually, I mean, it's a very democratic method, let's say, no? You, not like you, but not you, or you, yes, you, no.
Only men, not women.
Yeah, children too, in my case. So there's no need to be particularly spiritual or particularly evolved, because it's something absolutely natural, an energy that flows in all living beings. So it's not that it flows in you and not in me and otherwise, I mean, otherwise we'd be dead. It's incredibly simple for me.
Exactly. This is important because there are people who say, maybe I don't want to start Reiki because I've never done meditative things or things from the holistic world. No, so actually it's really simple.
But I think maybe you know where this idea comes from, that people arrive and say, I don't feel anything. And so, not feeling anything, they think they are not capable, not suited. And but in reality, once you receive the Reiju, everyone, the Reiki energy flows, even if you don't have a strong sensitivity to energy. Even if you don't feel it, it works, which is another wonderful thing. You also have to trust. I think that's part of it too, right? People at the beginning say, I don't feel anything. I don't understand. Both the one who receives and the one who gives.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And so the one who gives may start to doubt. But maybe I'm not capable, but that's not it.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it would be kind of the opposite, actually. I want to approach it in order to feel more peace, happiness, energy in the body flowing, right? So I approach it. It's not like I need to already be serene, happy to start, right? It's the opposite.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And well, so there's no need to be particularly elevated or enlightened or exactly.
Yeah. And it's for everyone, as you said. And yeah, as you said, Mikao Usui was a very open person, advanced even for his time, in the idea of opening this possibility to everyone, right? Not just to a few.
Yes, to everyone, exactly, yeah. To all people, so yeah. To those who have goodwill. He always says in his interview, right, that he wants to teach those who want to learn. And for his time, he was ahead because if I remember correctly, at the time when a father learned a trade or a technique, he passed it on to his son, the grandfather to the father to the grandson, but it wasn't explained outside the proper family, proper framework. You being Japanese know this, right? Like precisely because it became a source of income for the family. He instead did the opposite. He taught those who came. He traveled a lot, moved around Japan, and then I don't know elsewhere. Whether he went to India, I don't know. I don't want to go into that discussion. I don't believe so.
But you know, it makes me think of this image. I don't remember whether it was Tadao sensei or Arjava sensei who said that when you find a treasure in life, either you keep it for yourself or you want to share it with everyone. And well, Mikao Usui chose the second option.
Yes, the second, fortunately, because otherwise it would have never reached us.
We wouldn't be there talking about it.
And it's a world heritage of humanity. Oh, I'm exaggerating.
No, it is. It is. In any case, it's something, yes, beautiful, right? Oh, in the notes now I have something else, something that I saw a bit more myself, but that would be that everything that is shown on social media can be called Reiki. Okay, so I've seen, especially on apps like Instagram or TikTok, some influencers who say, now I'm doing this for you. Exactly, I'm using my hands and a lot for those who are listening. I'm removing something from you. And they do some kind of little choreography, a series of movement to help you remove something, which would be with the help of Reiki. So on this, I just wanted to say, okay, we're a bit far from Mount Kurama, from Japan in the 1920s. There were no screens like that at the time, so this already gives you an idea that it's something very creative, maybe, but at least in the traditional version it doesn't exist.
Japanese, right? Yeah, no. Yes, it's a bit the Westerners, right? I include myself too because I'm Western. This desire to go beyond, to build everything. Now, everything is energy, so everything is Reiki. There too, we always need to distinguish what was the original technique. Yes, I agree with you that everything is energy, right? Yes, quote Tesla, yes. But we're talking about something different here. Then you can do whatever you want with energy, but doing whatever you want is not Mikao Usui's Reiki Ryoho. So, yes, I basically agree with you. Yes, it's happened that I've briefly seen these kind of characters on social media doing this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Interesting. It's part of evolution, but we're a bit far from the Japanese Reiki tradition. Exactly.
Exactly. So please remember, not everything you see on social media is Reiki, especially Reiki without Y.
Exactly, Reiki.
Reiki.
That brings me to the next very interesting point. I would like to see a bit how. Okay, so um, it's without visualization or intentions, Reiki is incomplete. So,
Uh, there's a lot of history behind this because then there are the different steps, bit by bit. You start from a main concept, then there are the various deviations. At least in the Japanese tradition, as we were taught, you must let the energy flow essentially. Yes. Especially if you are doing a treatment on a person, then we get to visualization and saying that they absolutely must heal, they absolutely must heal. That you block what is the energy. So yes, obviously it's not that I do a treatment on someone and think about the washing machine and I have to start, or that I have to go pick up my son at his class, etc. You have to stay in the present, in the kyodakewa, just for today, yes. And the intention, yes, it is there, but it's not that forced intention. And above all, you shouldn't visualize strange things. I mean, in Reiki, you don't need to see, to repent. That's another domain. I don't know why this idea exists. Actually, I remember that when I started, uh, because I started with Western Reiki, right? I was trying hard. And the more I mean, when I put my hand on someone, the more I tried, the more I felt nothing flowing.
because we put ourselves in the middle of the flow.
Yeah, the ego, right? And so, exactly, I learned this later. I really learned it by going to Japan, where they just calmly place their hands. There you go. The Japanese taught me that because, and it was something I had, right? And then there's this part of how should I say? I don't find the word. This urge to do something to almost to compete, right? That desire to compete, but to want to achieve a certain result, right?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. It becomes a projection of, okay, I, the practitioner, have to heal the person. And so leaving the energy flow no longer matters anymore.
The energy, yeah.
Even if the intentions are the best, even if we mean well, because in the end, maybe the person has something to resolve themselves, and that work belongs to them.
Yeah, that's true. True. Very true. Really. Even the practitioner must remain. There's always, for those who practice holistic disciplines, work on themselves. Because, yes, I go to the course, I go to the 2 day course, and then I start treating my mom, my grandma, the cat, the dog, etc. You always have to work on yourself, especially when treating other people. So, so realizing when I put my ego in and when instead I let go and let the energy work. And there's a lot of ego around. I mean, but I'm talking about myself too. Sometimes it sleeps, right? Somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, that's part of the human condition, a little bit.
A little bit, yes. So you have to work a lot on yourself. The other thing related to visualizations, to talk about visualizations, is that I've heard people say that indeed you channel because it's a bit linked to the use of symbols, which in the West are overused. I'd like to say that in a friendly and nice way. This use of symbols, right? So there again, ego is involved because the more I advance in level, the more symbols I have, the more powerful I am. No, wait a second. There you block the energy too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And related to the symbols, there's also a much subtler aspect, and tell me if I'm wrong about channeling, no? Where do these symbols come from? They channel, they open portals, because I also heard that. Now there are those portals everywhere. Everywhere portals open, you know? So the dark portals open. So I really heard this. The person I heard it from was very direct. The dark energies work on you and then open the field of the darker energies. And when I heard that, I when I heard that I said, "Oh my god."
Okay, we are very, very far from what it is.
Citing Bible verses that no, it's not necessary. You don't have to use symbols, but just connect to the Holy Spirit. We were there, so the religion that then comes into these things, but we said Reiki has nothing to do with religion. These are very connected to religion, but I really want to demystify this. If used correctly, let's repeat, yes, it is true that many symbols are used, but even the symbols on which I read all sorts of things that come from Mikao Usui, that they came from him from forces, etc. In reality, one thing I appreciated a lot about Jikiden is that, especially in Shoden, partly, but especially in Okuden level, we explain the origins of the symbols, but also in Shoden, and especially in Okuden, we explain clearly the origins, where they come from, and that really relaxes people. People don't, their mind don't run in circles.
Exactly. There's no room for interpretations. Meaning, it's so clear in Jikiden, the explanation goes deeply, yes, and it's really anchored in reality. We're not in a vague interpretation, floating concepts that give you the chance to imagine I don't know what, right? These are very clear things for very clear reasons. Yes, and they are used not to, I don't know, open a portal.
Portals.
Yeah, portals to make some demons come, right? that that makes us come back to the last topic, right? Maybe that's where this belief about shaman invoking demons came from. It's completely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I also heard that when you do Reiju, you make it flow in people through this ceremony, right? That we do. Let's call it ceremony. And there again, I heard that the operator, the teacher, becomes a shaman. No, wait, we are not at all in the same thing for which is crossed. No. But you're laughing, but absolutely a few years ago, there was a seminar I attended just out of pure curiosity because I had started shamanism. So I was curious. Reiki and shamanism, interesting. Um, I left. I left there. Then, in my opinion, also because the the ideogram. Let's remember the ideogram Rei, especially Reiki, especially Rei, right? And you can explain it probably better than me, surely. The energy of the dead, because Rei.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ray, even in Japan, there's some confusion about this kanji or ideogram. The first part, let's say, of the word Reiki, Rei, which means universe, cosmos, but also soul. It's in its global sense of the soul, not the ghostly soul, right? But obviously, over time, ideas evolve, especially after the war. Even in Japan, if you use only this kanji, some can be confused with the energy of the soul.
So they get scared.
Yeah, yeah, even my family too. At first, when I used this, they said, "Ooh, Reiki, but what it is?" And then obviously after the war, people didn't talk much about Reiki, so even in Japan there was some confusion.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. And so I had read a whole series of hypotheses about this kanji, which would be the energy of the dead. So you go call or evoke, the, that's not it.
No, absolutely not. We don't know how to do it, and even if we did, I believe we wouldn't really have wanted to use it, right?
You go into other areas that are not Reiki, and there again, there are heavy preconceptions. Um, anyway, I don't want to go into that now.
No, in fact, it's absolutely not that. It's really the confusion between the word soul, which can be the universal soul, which would be what we mean, or the soul that has departed from this incarnation, but it's not that. It's really the soul in general, in the universal sense of it, right?
Yes, yes, indeed. There's also a whole explanation to give there, about the kanji of Reiki, and it's very beautiful, and it's always explained in Shodan. Now, not to advertise, but I see why. Then I ask, especially if, masters, Reiki masters come to me to understand what was taught to them compared to me. Because sometimes they also bring interesting insights. And yes, there are many interpretations. Kanji must be read for what they mean, even if it's difficult for those I mean, who have done a bit of Japanese, really only the word, just the word rain has 8,000. Now, by the way, a famous writer wrote a book about the story of rain. No, I won't mention it. Who has I don't know how many how many
Meaning, pronunciations.
yeah, approaches, like one means rain in this way, another is rain that falls in this way, another is when it falls like that one that falls that way. I mean, Japanese is brutal but beautiful because I love it a lot. And here we see the union, right? In the word Reiki, by the way, of multiple kanji with multiple meanings, and putting it all together, it doesn't come out as energy of the dead.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And each kanji also has, I mean, how ideograms or kanji come from images, there's also a story, almost a little poem behind each kanji, a story behind every kanji in this case.
The kanjis are ideograms because maybe we call them Japanese style.
Yeah, like the one behind me.
Yes, Japanese ideograms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, clean energy, the most beautiful definition I've been given, which I love very much, is the energy of the forests, right? Like when you enter, nowadays forest walks are fashionable, but the Japanese had discovered it like hundreds of years earlier, if not more. This Shinrin Yoku, no, I don't remember the exact name.
Yeah, Shinrin-yoku, which in reality is a concept that was also adopted because the Japanese don't do Shinrin-yoku. They just go into the forest.
As usual, exactly, yes. Then here it was developed for various purposes, but well, let's leave that. Anyway, when you enter the forest, you really feel good because the energy of the forest, I mean, at least for me, I love the woods, the forest, I really feel it. This is the energy we are talking about, real well being from nature. Exactly, yes, exactly. So, well, we hope we have given some, yeah, some additional points on this. I would say we said everything, or
Yeah, I think so too. In the end, there are some points we've already.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe there's only one thing that I see in the notes. Um, Returning to the origins of Reiki means rejecting evolution.
Oh my God. I mean, um, honestly, I prefer returning to the origins.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I ran away from Western Reiki, which works very well, fine, and all that, because there were things that didn't feel right to me, and I didn't feel it was mine. I don't know how to put it. It didn't resonate with me in a certain sense. I don't know why there was these things that didn't add up. Back then I had a Japanese friend, I mean, not Japanese, but almost because she was Italian but have lived there, and she told me, "No, the Japanese don't think that way." No, especially so rejecting evolution, but that also means adding things. If evolution, you have to see what they mean by evolution.
Exactly.
If by evolution you mean taking many techniques, putting them together, and okay, I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong, it's okay. That's not the theme, our purpose. But something, not a lot, but something changes. It's not exactly the same thing. I remember Tadao Yamaguchi, president of, we didn't introduce our Japanese teacher of the Jikiden Reiki Kenkyukai Institute of Kyoto. He's the son of Chiyoko Yamaguchi, very, very famous. And maybe some don't know her, but it's a long story beyond. Who said, and he said, yes, by adding things to evolve, it still works. It works the same, and it doesn't. But it doesn't have the same. He literally used the word flavor. So it doesn't have the same
Taste.
taste, which, however, he was always very correct and kind. I mean, it's more than a taste, in my opinion. A few things change. So it's not about denying or rejecting evolution. Then everyone does what they feel like doing. I mean, it's not that basically I prefer instead returning to the origins.
Yeah.
Returning to the origins to understand exactly the meaning of what Reiki is, which is a technique that, even left as it is, its origins, for me, is very evolved. I mean, it is already evolved in itself.
Yeah.
And it's adaptable even for the modern people today. So I don't know what they mean by evolution.
But for me, it seems that it's about adapting to the West, right? Um, because I see that very often when it's too simple in quotation marks, I see that many people feel the need for more elements, as if it's more complicated, it has more value. It has more things, it means it's more powerful, for example.
Yeah, that makes us go back to the symbols. The more symbols I have, the more powerful I am. It's the symbols that makes the practice more, I don't know. So even a person who has done the first level, only the first level, but practices every day and makes the energy flow, compared maybe even to a teacher who teaches but perhaps doesn't do treatments, doesn't practice, that person can be probably stronger. I mean, even if they don't have symbols, don't have all the sets of symbols, Reiki, etc. And that's Daiko Myo, the famous symbol, which doesn't exist in Jikiden. But I mention it anyway because it's in Western Reiki. And that is not what gives you more power, more strength, more, you know, which then we seek when we practice Reiki. Honestly, I don't.
No, it's really more about removing. It would be more about removing, returning to the essence, returning to simplicity. And maybe the Western mind feels more reassured when it becomes complicated, as if it had more value, right? And I think here there's a big lack of information
And understanding. It needs to be understood better because if you understood it better, maybe you wouldn't continue to add more to reach what?
exactly. Well, then those are choices, right? Everyone, as we said before, is free to experiment, right? And to see. But I believe that if we remove the roots or foundation of something that we want to make very powerful,
It changes. It's not Reiki anymore.
if we no longer have roots, it's not rooted in the original practice, in quotes, right? And if we make these choices, I think it should be a conscious choice. And having studied a bit of the history, then okay, if you do, I respect that, obviously. Everyone is free on this, but it's a shame when we don't know that this part exists and we go beyond it, skipping the roots, skipping the foundations.
That's true. Even though it has happened to me and it made me very happy in the seminars when there are practice meetings, for example, and people who want to go deeper, but not in the sense with symbols, rather, but for example, they often ask me, is there, for example, a book on Shintoism where I can understand? And then that makes me very happy because that person has, I mean, not that everyone has to know Shinto, no, but it's the desire to better understand the technique and its origins without thinking you're not modern enough if you don't add things. Because because in reality, the Japanese are very, in this sense, much simpler than us. I mean, us Westerners, they are very, as I always repeat, because some say they are inscrutable, the Japanese. Sometimes you don't understand what they think, but it's a it's a different mode, it's a different culture, but behind it there's a lot about certain behavior, and so it makes me happy when people want now, well written books on Shinto. Unfortunately, the best I think are written in Japanese, but there are some that can be read. I recently found one in Italian, very nice. In English, yes. For those who can read English, that one is really nice. That one, the English one.
Maybe we can put them
we'll put them below. So there's a
Yeah, for a bit of references.
yeah, because if they ask,
Nice.
nice, yes, yes, it's nice. Well, it's a way to spark curiosity in people and get them really into the substance, into the roots.
Exactly. Yeah. And yes, I think a bit of what you said before, right? When you go into the forest and feel this thing, this well being, do you need modernity in that? I mean, no, it's natural.
No, I mean, there isn't, well, it makes me laugh a bit. It makes me laugh. Sorry. It seems strange to me that there's this thing that now some people do, right? They go into the forest, form this group where you absolutely have to go to walk barefoot, feel the earth. Yes, fine, all good. Hug trees, do strange meditation practices, yoga, well, everything. Just enter the forest and stay there a moment in silence, right? A moment to quiet the mind. I'm not saying in meditation, even if someone wants and that's it. That's a good example of how the Westerner wants, yes, enter the forest, but let's do this in the woods, right? In forest, let's do this, let's do that. Just, let's relax.
Yes, relax. And if the urge to hug comes naturally, do it, of course. But it's not an obligation, right?
Because in Japanese practice, there isn't this thing of hugging, right? Who said that?
That's true. That's true, yeah.
Yeah. Simple doesn't mean superficial.
Exactly. Simple doesn't mean, how to say, yeah, superficial. Yeah, exactly.
Superficial?
Superficial or not enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Simple can be also very deep. Let's say that. And maybe we can more or less conclude on this because we're slowly reaching, yes, the end of the episode. But maybe I can say something to conclude a bit. I don't know if you still have something to share.
No, nothing that comes to my mind. Not at this moment. I'm still thinking about evolution, but well.
Yes, that's true. Yes, it could be a whole episode, in fact, just talking about this, because evolution then, as you said, is from which point of view, right? What do we mean by evolution? Adapting to modern things or integrating what we have, but then losing the connection with tradition?
The essence.
Exactly. And that could be a 2-hour topic, especially with the two of us, because when we enter into...
Forgive us. For those who have made it this far, we thank you very much.
Exactly. Thank you for those who haven't given up yet. Exactly. No, but yeah, if I can say that, Reiki in the end, like many living practices, right? We talked about it before, has passed through cultures, people, adaptation, right? And it's natural that over the time, maybe some slightly different, sometimes a bit confused ideas have arisen. We've seen that, right? But I would say that our invitation is not to judge this, to pause for a moment, observe a little, as we have done, and maybe return to simple, grounded practice, and return to the origins of Reiki in Japan, which does not mean rejecting evolution. It does not mean rejecting...
No, absolutely not.
Exactly. It would be more highlighting where it was born, also respecting it, right? Respecting the practice for what it is with awareness. And it's difficult because in the end, Reiki is not something to explain, right? Or even if we tried to do what we could, right?
True.
It's not something to demonstrate, right?
Very true, right?
And it's something to practice, as you said, to feel,
To do, to practice.
to live, to be with respect, with presence and humility.
And humility, of course. The work on oneself is fundamental in all fields.
In all fields, you're right. Yeah.
Very well.
So it's really in this simplicity that it is an invitation to return.
It's just something brilliant.
Exactly.
Let's call it that way.
Yeah.
Very well. Thank you very much for welcoming me to your blog. It's a pleasure.
Podcast.
Podcast, yeah.
Reiki Banashi.
I'm behind, you see. I didn't want to evolve in these things.
Going back to the roots.
Exactly. Podcast, sorry.
All good. No, thanks to you. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. I hope we haven't bored you and that it has been interesting, that maybe we've been able to give you some ideas to think about, or maybe not. I don't know.
Exactly. It's an invitation, like many things. It's an invitation. And I wanted to ask you if someone wants to contact you in the Milan area, maybe Bergamo, how can they find you?
Okay, so you can find me so my center here in Milan is called Hansa Center. I'll send you the details later if you want to put the link below. It's in a nice area of Milan where the vertical forest is. Those two skyscrapers full of trees that look like...
Oh no, come on.
We are just behind in a fairly upscale area. It's a center where we do many disciplines, many techniques of all kinds, and where I do seminars, treatments, and also, practice. And in Bergamo, here I'm not in Bergamo itself, but it's a small town near Bergamo called Chignolo. There too, if you want, I can give you the name of the place. And you can find me also, on Instagram. Lately, I haven't been very...
Oh, come on. Sometimes you're there. I've seen that.
Yes, sometimes, yes, but I'm quite lazy. And my computer is broken too, so at the moment, I can't upload anything on Facebook or I'll give you the address, the email, imparajikidenreiki@gmail.com, and I'll put it below. You can find me there for any type of information or ask Innina.
Yeah, it depends on the area you're in. We always have possibilities.
Yeah. Let's say there aren't many teachers. We're mostly in the north, I think, right? There's also someone in southern Italy. I don't remember exactly where now.
I think near Naples, from what I understood.
Yeah, I think near Naples, yes, Antonio. And we are a bit spread out between Sardinia, Lombardy, Turin. There is also a center in Turin. I'll give you all the details later.
Yeah, maybe send me all the list and I'll put it all together.
Sure, and also Treviso, province of Treviso, Tuscany, and I don't remember, sorry for the others. We have a Shihan in Liguria, in the Cinque Terre, a beautiful place.
And here it is. And for those outside Italy who are coming here, because you know that the podcast is then translated into other languages, we also put the link for how to find a Jikiden Reiki teacher.
Yes, we have exactly a link connected to the Association of Jikiden teachers, where there is this beautiful map, and depending, you can see on England, France, Germany, we are spread all over Europe and beyond. But well, maybe Europe is more relevant in that case, and also other continents, America, anyway. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I really hope to see you again soon, Barbara. I don't know if it will be online or in person. Let's hope in person. Well, but I still hope in person because it's always a great pleasure to see you, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for your presence, your experience. Arigatou gozaimashita.
Arigatou gozaimashita.
Thank you. Mata ne.
Mata ne. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening, and thank you again so much to Barbara. If you want to continue exploring these topics with me, you can find me on Instagram or on my website. And if you want to go deeper or learn more, all the links are in the show notes. If you like this episode, don't hesitate to share my podcast with someone you think might be interested. Your support and your listening mean a lot to me. I'll see you very soon for another episode, and in the meantime, take care. Arigatou gozaimashita.